Okay, you can see the rights violations, right?
Yeah, that's not fine.
So, is there a humane way of killing something?
No, it's absolutely not. And when we talk about industrializing how you keep and feed and grow beings, that's wrong. No discussion about it. But at the same time, I think, when you look at things, we humans tend to go from one extreme to another, okay? And this movement that we have right now around vegan is more an extreme move rather than taking a balanced approach to life. So think about it for a moment. We know this is wrong, but we don't need to discuss that, right? It's wrong.
Okay.
Whatever you do, it's wrong. No animal should feel that way. No being should feel that way, right? And by the way, you wouldn't want to eat that. Agreed?
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't want to eat that because I know it's not healthy. At the same time, if you think about how you're industrializing with monocultures, right? Think about soya. There are farms where you can't see even the end of it. It's all about soya. You can't tell me this is the right thing by the planet and by the human beings, right? Because monocultures are not, right? So that's not the answer. This is not the answer. The question is, what is the answer? Right? In my opinion, that's my personal opinion, I think that we should be a lot more balanced about what we eat, where we eat it from, how it is produced, right? And at the same time, simply thinking about the amount of things that we eat, right? It's not balanced. If you think about your diet or my diet, I wouldn't say it's really balanced, right? And I think a lot of people probably have the same issue. At the same time, so that's the production side of things. If you look at the consumption side of things, there are people like me that can afford to go and buy, how do you call it?
Buy organic.
Organic food, right? Not everyone can afford to buy organic food. It's very expensive, right? There are a lot of poor people, even in this country, which is considered one of the most, wealthiest countries on the planet. There are a lot of people that just can't afford it. So the question is, how can you provide 8 billion people with affordable food in the right mixture, so that they get all the nutrients that they want, produced in the right way, at the right time, with the right price. And I think this is the chance. So the debate is not about vegan or not vegan. The debate is about how do we feed the world population in a way that is sustainable for the decades and centuries to come, and have people eating healthy. And I don't think vegan is the answer.
Okay.
Because vegan is just another extreme move. And what happens? You get meat substitutes, right? All these, I want to imitate meat. No, I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is changing our habits, what we eat, where we eat it from, consider how it's produced, how it is caring about our nutrition, how it fits into our purse, right? And how it is sustainable environmentally for the next generation that they will come, right?
Okay, so I'll just go through your points one by one.
Sure.
So the first point you talked about, what was it, about soy. So do you know 90% of soy, do you know what it's fed to?
Animals.
Exactly. So if the whole world went vegan, we would actually say, I'm happy to send these papers for you if you want. I can give you my email address after. We would save the land, besides the land of Africa, and then these areas will be able to rewild. So we'll be able to bring back habitats. And then I agree with you, monocropping is not the best way, but what you can do is crop rotation. So you can rotate crops, and that will be ultimately the most sustainable solution, because if you go vegan, you save approximately 75% of your environmental footprint goes down. So it's better for the environment. But then again, veganism is not about the environment. It's about animal rights. So I think we both agree we're against this. And so back to your other point where you're saying it's very extreme. For me, any life that's saving is not extreme. So just if you can survive without supporting this, it's not extreme.
But see, that's exactly the issue what I'm saying, right? If you think at the human being and how we tend to change directions, we always go from one extreme to another, right? But I think we both can agree that the golden center is where you want to stay, right? I don't think that we will ever abandon meat, but we can change the way we produce meat, right? We can change how much we eat meat. We can change how far we agree that it should be transported, right? Because you say it's about animals, but they're part of the environment, right? So if you look at the animals as the only living creatures on this planet, then I think you're going already the wrong direction. Because this whole planet is alive, right? If you think about a macroorganism, then this planet is probably the best example. So we don't have to just take care of the planet, of animals. We have to take care of the planet. And animals are part of that. And they're not the only animals, right?
Say again, what was that?
These are not the only animals that are suffering. If you have these monocultures where you have acres of land, acres as far as you can look, with a monoculture, this is space that other animals used to live in for a long period of time, way before we human beings were on this planet. Right? So how about those animals? If you fly avocados around half of the globe, it may be a good food, I agree. But is it really necessary? Is it really necessary to have a healthy meal on the table? I would say no. It's not. If you go to the farmer around the corner and buy your milk and your meat and your eggs and what have you, there, and you see every day those, maybe you have one of those, right? You see every day those animals are outside, they're having the freedom, they grow, at one point they die for the sake of another human being, surviving. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If I think about what we just saw now, I'm not okay with that. Of course not. It's the wrong thing to do. And it's not just about politics, and this is why I appreciate you being here, right? It's about helping human beings to understand what is the impact of the decisions that they're taking every day, right? So I think from a messaging perspective, if you want to get really to the bottom of it, if you want to get to people's heart and to people's mind and win them, people have to take a way more balanced approach, saying, oh, you eat meat, that's really bad. You shouldn't. No, it's not. It's not. It's not bad. This is how the human beings have been living for eons. Right? But if you go and say, look, your behavior is harming this planet and the place where your children, and their children will be living over the next centuries. And with minor changes, being more aware of how you take your decisions, you can have already a big impact. I think then you're empowering people. Instead of telling them off, empower them. Right? And I don't think telling people you got to go vegan is the right thing to do. Hence why I wanted to debate with you.
Okay, so I'll go through your points again one at a time. So back to the monocultures, which you're saying, which go on for miles. These monocultures, they exist because of the animal industry, because you could get the most, even the local farms which you were talking about, they also still use hay. Like, that's the power of marketing. So even grass-fed cows, they're still fed corn and all of this stuff. So cows that you can be flying avocados from across the world, a vegan will still have a lower environmental footprint than the person with this idyllic farm beside them by 75% lower. And then back to your point about it being extreme, as you said, you still believe that there will always be a need for animal flesh. You're saying that humans need animal flesh. In the future, we'll have...
I think humans will want animal flesh. I'm not saying we necessarily need it. We could live off chemicals for the rest of our lives, right? We could chemically produce anything these days.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need it. I think people want it.
Correct. So that's why we're going to have in the future cultured meat, so meat in the lab, and if that's proved to be as identical in terms of health to normal animal flesh, then I believe that things will change, and then once the populations get high enough, it will be able to be legislated against, and then because many things in history have changed. So you said we've been eating animals for thousands of years, sure, but also slavery existed for a long time as well, and then people stood up. It still does as well. So yeah, there'll always be, I guess, in some extent. Do you think we'll ever completely eradicate slavery? Hopefully.
No, we don't, because we think about modern slavery.
Yeah.
That's where you're getting to,
yes.
By the way. But that's a different discussion. You said something around.
So yeah, back in terms of law, that's the idea, that it just becomes legalized to become not acceptable animal abuse for a cheeseburger.
Absolutely right. I couldn't agree there more with you. You talked about meat in the lab, right? And we're back to chemicals. Look at, and you're very young, so I would take time to research that. Look at the past 120 to 140 years, okay? And how we have come up, human beings, they have come up with ideas and promoted them into the world for commercial reasons, telling people that it's safe, just to find out later that we were just talking bullshit. Right? I'll give you an example. When I grew up, I was told that eggs are really bad for you, right? Because they have cholesterol.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nobody told you that cholesterol is actually good for you, and it's a pre-product, if I understood it correctly, to producing testosterone. Right? So your body needs it. There's a way to get it. It's a natural way of getting it. So it's probably the most healthiest way, I'd say. And yet we abandon it. Now we are saying people milk is bad. I'm not sure if milk is bad per se. Maybe the way we are producing milk and mixing all the milks from different cows together and then getting it to the shop, maybe that's bad. Maybe. But I'm pretty certain in 20, 30 years' time, somebody will come up and say, you should have milk because it's really good for you. Right? These things change over time.
Yeah.
And because we have such a short span of attention these days, people just don't think about it anymore. Right? Let me give you another example. What was told? Is bad. So milk was bad.
So I think you must be reading a lot of these, I don't know, either on Instagram posts, or if you speak to any dietitian, like I as a vegan, I can tell you that eggs, they're not, the dose makes the poison. So veganism isn't about health. The most important thing is that you can be healthy as a vegan. So it's not about getting into diet wars And vegans who they don't have no dietary cholesterol at all. Every cell in your body makes cholesterol, so you don't need to eat cholesterol to make cholesterol. So vegans, you have vegan bodybuilders who get zero dietary cholesterol who are competing in strongman.
That Persian guy. I know, right? I've seen all that. I'm not saying that chemically you need eggs, but people will eat eggs.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can we produce eggs in a way that is sustainable for the centuries to come? Right? How can we ensure that we are not having these mass animal treatments that are not just inhumane, it's genuinely wrong, right? How can we change that? Part of that is, of course, reducing, and this is what we did as a family, right? So a few years ago, we sat down and said, you know what? We are definitely eating too much meat, and it's certainly not good for us, right? So that was more of a selfish approach to things. How can we get a bit healthier? And we reduced it to 2 to 3 times a week, and you know what? We feel better about it ourselves. So that's good. But if you really want to change the way these things are happening, I think the only way to address those producers is by hurting them where it hurts most, which is the pocket. So people should decide how they're buying things, and what they buy, and where they buy it from. Right? If you buy it from a local farmer that you know and you trust, good thing. So for example, we have a farmer that has meat for a few months. That's it. Once those cows and wheels are gone, it's gone. Not available anymore. Period. So it's our decision. Do we go to Coop and buy the Preisgarantie, right? Where you know that's coming from somewhere in, I don't know, Brazil or Vietnam or what have you? Or are you buying something local that is organic? At least you know that you have done it a bit better. But the issue is most people can't afford. If you look, for example, to Germany, there are families that are living off €4.50 a day for food. Now go that guy and tell him you should eat vegan. Forget it, man. They can't afford it. They just can't afford it because fruits and vegetables are too expensive. Period.
Interesting. So you're saying that vegetables are very expensive. So you're saying a can of beans. I go to the supermarket. Can of beans costs, I don't know, less than £1 for a.
Okay, can of beans. Okay, you want to feed that family every day with 4 cans of beans?
So you've got all of the cheapest foods are plant foods. So nuts, lentils.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But how are you explaining that family that they should go and buy organic? You can't.
So for me, I study nutrition, okay, and I'll tell you that organic is not necessarily healthier. You can get most of the benefits by not eating organic. So it's not like the most important.
Think about pesticides.
Yeah.
Right. Think about bell peppers. Right? Have you seen the price difference between organic and non-organic?
Yeah.
And you're a nutritionist, so you know that the non-organic ones are full of pesticides. It goes actually thus far that even if you make chips with them, you still find those pesticides in places.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't tell me that's healthy.
So
right? If you fill your body with pesticides, it can't be healthy.
The pesticides, they've passed the health tests and stuff. So a lot of it is based on speculation. So if you want to buy organic, I respect your decision, but I personally don't buy organic.
But if you think about those pesticides, look, the European Union tells you that a good level of radiation is okay for human beings, right? That's what they say. Do you believe that?
Do I believe it? Well, we're bombarded with radiation everywhere. So I'm agnostic to the position unless you give me.
I'm talking about nuclear radiation, like alpha, beta, and gamma kind of radiation. There is a certain level set. Or what's the other one? Quicksilver. alternative to no
Quicksilver.
quicksilver.
Never heard of this one, but
Quicksilver, right? A certain amount in your food is allowed. Now that's one of the most toxic metals on the planet.
you mean mercury, maybe?
Mercury.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Quicksilver, that is a joke. Same thing. So if you believe everything that you're told, which is normal by the way in your age, fair enough. If you think that everything you studied in school is the only truth, be my guest. I can tell you after 43 years on this planet, I've come to the conclusion that there is a lot of bullshit you learn. A lot of bullshit. And reality oftentimes is different. And knowledge that you have today will be altered tomorrow. That's a matter of fact. Right? Everything I thought when I was your age is true. Not everything, but a lot of them has been altered these days. Because science has come to the conclusion that maybe a lot of things that we used to do the way we used to do it centuries ago were right. And the modern human being did it the wrong way. It'd be based on assumptions or believe in incomplete knowledge. So just because you have studied doesn't mean you know. It means you had a view. A view. And that view was shaped by the books you read, by the professors you had, and by the experiences you gained over the course of time. Doesn't mean that you know everything. What I do believe though is that human beings living on this planet for eons have collected knowledge based on experience, and that knowledge based on experience, I believe more than any scientific paper that comes out today or tomorrow. Because I 100% know it's incomplete.
Okay, so if we go back to your local farm you were talking about, if, for example, it's a tribe in the Amazon and they are, I don't know, they are sort of raising humans for consumption, would you be okay with that? Because there's some tribes which do cannibalism still. Is that, would you be okay with saying, okay, that's perfectly fine, if they then start moving into our society and hunting us, would you be okay with that?
So what I do know is that on this planet you have a ton of different cultures, beliefs, standards, and what have you. And one of the first things I learned is that you got to respect everybody, right? So if you believe that vegan is the right thing, I respect that for you, right? As long as you know that your right ends where mine starts, I'm fine with that. So if they think that this is the right thing for them to do, and they have been living like this forever, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Right? If they come to my door, of course I'm not okay with that. Because that's where my right starts. Right? It's my right to not have my daughter being eaten by a cannibal. Right? It's my right. And it's her right. If they want to eat their kids, it's their right. They've been living like that in the Amazons for, I don't know, thousands of years. I'm okay with that. So, let's go back to slavery, because I think that's a better comparison for you. So you talked earlier about slavery. Yes, slavery did exist and it still exists, but slavery was managed by a few people and a lot of people were hurt. Right? You can't compare that with how animals are kept. Well, you can to some degree, right? If you think about industrializing, I agree, right? Because that was, slavery was an industry. If you think about the local farm that has maybe 4 cows and 200 chickens, I would disagree. I disagree, because those farmers, the small farmers, they actually do care. And if you find one of those that doesn't care, then I think that person shouldn't be a farmer in the first place.
Okay.
Right? Maybe it's not the right profession for them. If you think about a dog shelter, right? It's the same thing. You will find people that are really caring for those animals, right? And those animals are hard to hurt. But you also find people that actually don't give anything about those animals. Should they do the job? No. So, I'd like to take a more differentiated view on things, right? Not black and white, because this world isn't black and white. It's very colorful. So I don't believe that telling people vegan is the only way to go is the right thing to do, because it will never get to where it should be. But if you say, look guys, this is a very good option to diversify the way you consume food, then I'm 100% with you. There's nothing wrong about vegan. There's nothing wrong about it. But it's just one color. Right? I wouldn't want the whole world to be red or just green or just blue. I like it because it's colorful and because it's different, right? And if we can get this color out, this way of keeping animals, I'd be very satisfied. But I think we have to find a way to address the human need for affordable food.
So I'd like to bring up the point about the local farm you said that, where you said the farmers care. Is it possible to care for something while you're killing them? So, for example, if a murderer was raising their humans in a very nice, humane way, giving them, I don't know, baths and massages, and then was killing them, would you say the murderer cares for humans?
I don't think that's a good comparison. I give a better comparison. I used to have a dog. He was, at that time, one of my best friends. I loved him to death. He got sick at one point, and I could have left him alive. He probably would have lived maybe another month or two, maybe a year. We don't know. But he was seriously ill, and he was suffering. I did care, hence why I went to the doctor and put him asleep. Right? Not for my benefit, and I think that's the only difference between, a farmer and this example, but for his benefit, because he was suffering. I still killed him.
Okay. So this is a different situation, because this is euthanasia. So you're killing them because it's needed. So you sort of diverged from the example I gave. So when I talked about the murderer, whether or not. So I'm guessing we both can agree that the murderer doesn't care for the people.
No, they are. There is a good example in Switzerland. There are people that actually don't want to live anymore. There is a service where you can decide, and they kill you.
Yeah, but my example was a person is not the people want to die. It's a person raising humans, and they don't know that they're going to die, but he looks after them. He gives them massages. He gives them bubble baths, and at the end, when their interest is in being extended, their life, as is in the case for cows, they want to keep on living just like us. They don't want to die. So the person killing the people, the murderer, does he love the people?
Okay, I understood. Okay. So basically what you're doing is you're humanizing an animal. I don't think that animals, and if you have spent time with animals more than a few minutes, you would know that animals don't think that way. They just don't, right? They don't. I'll give you an example. We have two cats. We had two cats. One of them died just recently. The other cat went, looked at it, lay down, stood up, went away. It's done. Animals don't think about life and death the same way we do. They do not have all the same feelings that we have. They're not as conscious as we are. That's at least our current knowledge, right? And there are some exceptions like elephants, dolphins, and some others, primates, right? But in general, if you think about it, those birds, do they want to live? Probably. They for sure have an intuition.
So if we look at the animal on the slaughterhouse screaming...
Let me finish quickly. But you can't compare what you just said, the murderer, with a farmer, because they're not the same. The farmer lives off that, right? He and his family have been living on this land, on that land, probably for centuries. that have been doing this job for centuries, right? They are in love with the land and the animals and the people around them, and that's good, right? So I wouldn't compare that guy with a murderer. If you tell me that you would compare this guy with a murderer, I'd 100% agree. That's not just murdering, that's torturing. Do you get my point?
Yeah, I see your point, yeah. So then going back to the animals then, so I can just understand, because if I understand correctly, you still think it's okay to kill animals for food, right?
Yes.
So what sort of characteristic is there present in a cow or a chicken that if a human would have this characteristic, you would say, okay, let's kill this human for food?
If you look at the animal kingdom, there are millions of different species, right? Yet we human beings have chosen a few dozen species for food. Over the course of the last 10, 12,000 years, at least. I believe that there is a reason for that, right? So I can't tell you a certain characteristic that a human being has that an animal doesn't have. So that, if an animal would have them, then we shouldn't be killing them. Or if a human being would have that, we should be killing human beings. I can't give you a correct answer because I don't know. But what I do know is that we human, at least the vast majority of human beings, do not eat every animal. There are certain animals that we do eat and a lot of animals that we don't, right? And we have actually come to a point where we are growing our food, our living food, right? And we have been doing that for, I don't know how many thousand years, but we have been doing that, right? And over the course of time, our bodies have adjusted to that food. Our culture has adjusted to that. Our religion has adjusted to that. Our way of living has adjusted to that. And the only thing that we are seeing today is that we have gone extreme on that. If you look at countries like India or somewhere in Africa, people don't eat meat every day. They just don't. They can't afford to eat meat every day. But they're healthy and happier. There must be a reason for that, right? We live in a society, and that's our system, where food is available 24/7, right? And you should be eating 3 times a day, if you can 6 times. I don't know, right? Eat. But in reality, we are overusing the resources this planet provides for us. Right? If every human being would live like an American, we would probably need 3 Earth.
Maybe.
If we want to feed the whole world population healthy, probably Rwanda would be good enough. Right? That's at least the Austrian scientist came up with that a few years ago. Now, the Americans were one extreme. Having only Rwanda necessary to feed all human beings is probably the other extreme. Can we find a more balanced approach? I do believe yes. I don't have a simple answer for that because there's probably none. But there must be a more balanced approach instead of going from one extreme to another. And for me, this debate is just about moving people from one extreme to another. I don't think it's... And we'll find out. We'll find out in 20 years' time.
We'll see, and I think
right? And you hopefully will remember these words. In 20 years' time, we probably know that eating vegan only is probably not good for you. For reasons that we don't know today.
I don't think so, because we've got studies where people have been for many years vegan, and all their biomarkers, all their health is the same.
We have studies that oil is not environmentally hazardous. We have that. They came in the 80s. People believed in them. 40 years on, oil and gas are the new bad boys. We had studies in the 60s that smoking is not bad for you. It's actually good for you. We had studies that Coca-Cola is good for you. We have studies that penicillin, and some other medicines are good for you. There are no harms. Just to find out decades later that they're harming. So please, those studies, I don't believe in them because they're at best a view.
But yeah, even if say I accept your view that there is some sort of slight decline, even though so far we don't know, I would still say it's worth it because you're saving lives, you're still living healthy, you're still doing sports.
You're not saving life because if you don't grow them, you don't kill them. It's not saving a life. That life would have never existed then, right? You would have saved resources.
But so do you know how many animals are bred into existence every year?
Billions.
Trillions, including fish.
Probably trillions.
Because including fish, trillions, billions, 60 to 80 billion land animals every year.
Yeah,
so you're breeding them into existence.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't accept the same thing with humans.
Oh, absolutely.
If we were breeding humans into existence.
Absolutely. Should that be lowered? 100% agree. Is that environmentally good? Yes. Should we eat less meat? 100% agree. Should we go from one extreme to another? Absolutely no. Absolutely no.
Yeah, and I have veganism is about the abolition of this, and for the people that still feel they need the animal flesh, we will have cultured meat in the future, so that's going to be a real game changer.
No, that's a real game changer in terms of harming human beings. If you produce food in the lab, it has never been good. We know that processed food is not good for you. Right?
You need some evidence, because just because something is processed doesn't make it inherently harmful, because an ultra-processed food, if ultra-processed food is, if you just add one additive, it becomes ultra-processed. So I could take some lemon juice from citric acid, I could add it to a food, it's now classed as ultra-processed.
It's not lemon juice, it's the citric
acid. But
right? And that citric acid is not taken out of a lemon, it's chemically produced.
But
you studied it, so you should know.
Yeah, but so
that citric acid you get in your soda is chemical, right? You get it in your processed food, it's chemical. Go to Coop and take any food that is ready to eat. Look at the bag and see if you understand what's actually standing on it. That's not the right way to go.
But yeah, as I understood, you don't trust any science, so it's going to be difficult to have a conversation about the studies.
That's not true. I'm saying I do trust science, but I know that it's just a view, right? And if something is pushed into the market and marketed by the big pharma or the big food industry, what have you, you can trust that it's probably not true.
And based on which evidence?
Based on experience. Based on experience. If somebody tells you today, this is the right way to go, and tomorrow, no, I was actually wrong, this is the right way to go. First time, shame on me. Second time, shame on you. First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. No.
So, based on experiences, it's anecdotal, so...
No. So, if you look at your family, go and talk to your grandparents and ask them what they learned is the right thing to do from their grandparents. That one you can probably trust.
I'll tell you,
with high chances.
My grandma, she has type 2 diabetes, and she thinks she knows best.
Maybe. But I'm coming from a culture where we actually did know what food does to you.
And this sounds like it's all anecdotal.
And that knowledge is not just 10, 20, 50, 100 years old. That knowledge is thousands of years old. And funny enough, things that I heard as a child, I see now these days on TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. I knew that forever.
Yeah, TikTok is. I know there's a lot of charlatans on TikTok.
Of course, but a lot of the things that you see there, like, yeah, we know. So I give you another example. If you don't have penicillin at hand, right, and you go and eat curcuma,
turmeric, ginger.
Ginger is not well known in our culture, at least.
Where is your culture?
I'm Persian.
Oh, cool. So yeah, the vegan bodybuilder is Patrick Babanian.
Yeah, exactly.
He's from Iran, I think. saw him last week actually.
Did you?
Patrick, yeah.
My goodness.
He's making a video game about animal rights.
So, so coriander and parsley.
Parsley, yeah. Herb.
Parsley, turmeric. You get a cold? Go and have that. Better than any medicine you can take. And matter of fact. Now this is a knowledge I knew as a child because that's how my mom used to. We used to live in Var. Medicine wasn't available. You would take that, it would have the same effect. And there are a lot of that knowledge is still out there. Right? So, do I believe that I should take ibuprofen or go and eat coriander and parsley? What would you choose?
Well,
what would you choose?
As in, if I've got an illness, I don't, because I personally, I haven't touch wood, I've been pretty healthy, so.
Thank God, but let's say you get a cold.
If I get a cold, then.
Would you go and trust the scientists that tell you, oh, take ibuprofen, or would you go and trust the grandma that tells you eat parsley and coriander?
Oh, well, you're talking about penicillin. Penicillin is antibiotic, so if I need antibiotic.
Coriander, by the way, is antibiotic, but that's different.
So I would trust the evidence. That's the way I am. I always trust.
I would trust my grandma.
Yeah. So that's where our difference is. So if we move the conversation, because we've been talking about many different topics.
Of course, because they are all interconnected.
Yeah. So the good news is that plant-based, you can eat coriander and parsley as a vegan, perfect. Basically everything any molecule you can get it as a vegan. If you need creatine, you can get creatine as a vegan. But back to when I asked about the characteristic, you didn't really give me
because I don't have an answer for that, honestly speaking.
So
I don't have an answer for that.
So what if a murder that we were talking about earlier on, he kills a human? Is your justification that how would you argue against someone raising or keeping humans in their cellar and then killing them?
Well, first and foremost, humans are my species, right? A cow is not my species.
Okay.
Number one. Okay. Number two, a murder is a murder. A farmer isn't a murder per se. A murder is for me someone that kills another human being. If you kill an animal, you're not automatically a murder. If you go and kill an animal for fun, like other people do shooting lions in Africa for fun, that's murder. But if you raise an animal and take really good care of him, and at one point when the fruit is ripe, you say, you know what, I need that to feed my own family, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so if a guy raises cattle in a cellar just for their own pleasure, and they raise humans in the cellar just for their own pleasure, and then...
But it's not pleasure you're talking, you say pleasure.
So because they need, okay? But what if someone has already got, I don't know, animal flesh in their fridge, and they are just raising cattle just for fun, because they like, I don't know, torturing pigs or torturing dogs. For example, if someone is just raising dogs to torture them,
that's wrong. Torturing human beings and animals is wrong.
But what about now? Then it's killing them for.
Look, if I kill a fish to eat, I'm okay with that. If you kill a fish just for killing it, I'm not okay with that. If you take a fish out and you torture it by keeping it in the air, just for your pleasure, that's of course not okay.
So you also mentioned species. So you said my species is very important to me. So if for example,
human beings are my species. So if somebody kills a human being, that's probably the worst thing you can do on this planet.
Okay, so would you be against, for example, slaughtering if someone kept Homo erectus, so a different species of humanoids in their cellar? Would
still a humanoid, and still it's still wrong if you think about how do you say orangutans, for example, or chimpanzees.
So you wouldn't be okay with chimpanzees in the cellar?
Because there is no sense. There is no sense in keeping a chimpanzee in the cellar and then killing it or torturing it. There is no sense in that. But cattle is for food. So if you torture it, it's wrong. If you treat it in the right way, and at one point when it's needed, it's used, I'm okay with that. Do you see the fine line?
Not really, because you're saying cattle is for food, but then you're saying I'm asking for a characteristic, and then you cannot name me one. You cannot.
Okay, I think the big difference for me, so where I draw the line is the purpose, right? So what's the purpose of this guy keeping 100 human beings in the cellar and torturing them and killing them?
So I'm just saying someone.
What's the purpose?
I'm just saying someone is raising humans for consumption now.
Yeah. Consumption of what?
Of human flesh.
Let's take another example. Let's take somebody is raising human for organs, right? That would be a purpose.
Yeah.
Because we have a need for organs. So killing one human being to save 10 other human beings, would I be okay with that? Because that's the only example I can think of where we could go to your comparison. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, because I'm a threshold deontologist, so there'll be maybe a certain amount, maybe if it's 1 million humans, where you have to say, okay, maybe it's now worth it.
I don't know. Probably not. Even so, if we have to raise human beings as cattle to use their organs to save other human beings, it seems to me morally just wrong. I can't tell you why. I don't know a good excuse, but it just feels to me wrong, right? If we say we are raising cows to feed human beings, if we treat them in the right way and take the result or use them at one point, I'm okay with that. That feels okay to me.
And what about if we modified the genetic code of cows so they looked exactly like humans, but still their species was cows? Would you still think it's okay to raise them for food?
I think genetically modifying anything is wrong, right? Including crops.
But if let's just say in space there's a species of alien that looks like a human but is not a human.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know. I can't give you an answer. First of all, I've never thought about it. Secondly, it's purely hypothetical. We don't know if something exists or somebody exists. And I don't think those examples really help us to solve the bigger issue, which is how do we feed the human population in a healthy, sustainable, affordable way.
So from what I'm getting, you seem to be disagreeing with me that you can be healthy as a vegan, and so
not necessarily, but I do believe that there's always harm. There's always harm going from one extreme to another. There's always harm. Right?
So what would you need to see to say, okay, I'm convinced that I can be healthy as a vegan?
Experience over time. Experience over time, and no research document that somebody with a certain view has produced, right? Even if you have 1,000 scientists producing one research document, you will find the view of 1,000 people, not necessarily experience of millions of people over thousands of years.
So these research papers which are produced, it's not one scientist just giving their opinion.
I know.
It's them, for example, doing a cohort study study where they take, I don't know, 20,000 vegans, 20,000 meat eaters, and over 20 years they collect their biomarkers, their health, how many bone fractures they have, how many heart attacks they have, how many strokes they have.
In which area of this world?
So the studies I've seen, I've seen the studies
Are
from...
they global studies?
So I've seen studies from America, I've seen studies from Europe. There's one in the Oxford EPIC, so one in the UK, one in America.
So you're European, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's
Do you believe that your biology is 100% comparable to a Chinese guy?
So I don't know, but
100% not. Is my answer.
yes, but
Because me and you, we are not the same, just by
yeah,
definition.
everyone's
But the way I've been raised and where I've been raised is completely different to you. So my biology works differently than yours. For sure.
yeah, but for me, everything is to do with risk reward. So for me, the evidence is strong enough to say, okay, I'm going to save lives, and I'm with high certainty I know I'll be healthy.
Maybe that works for you, right? And that's okay. But you're not sitting here saying I'm doing that for myself and I'm healthy. What you're saying, you're here to tell other human beings that they should do the same thing as you do.
Because we've done the studies. So what's your study? Where's your study that you can be that meat is the optimal diet?
I'm not saying that. Did I ever say that?
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
No.
Right?
But you're saying.
But I said, and this is common sense, that if you have balance in the way you live, eat, sleep, work, manage your relationships, that you have probably higher chance of living a healthy life than living from extremes or going from one extreme to another.
Why do you think veganism is an extreme?
It's an extreme simply because you're saying, you know what, you're not allowed to eat meat, fish, milk, eggs, cheese, milk products, because it's harming those, and we are doing that for them. No. I'm gonna eat fish, I'm gonna eat meat, I'm gonna eat eggs, milk products, and what have you. But I'm gonna take a more balanced approach to that, right? So, do I eat milk every day? No. Do I eat milk once in a while? Hell yeah. Meat every day? No. Once or twice a week? Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And as long as I feel better about myself and I feel that I'm healthier, that's probably the right thing for me to do. Right? So I will not tell you change your way and don't go vegan. If you feel better about yourself, do it. But don't forget, you're still young, your body is very robust. That will change.
But yeah, there's people who have been vegan their whole life, 50 years now.
What I would like to see is, can we have, I don't know, a few millions of people, human beings from all around the world, living vegan their whole life and living a better life? If it's a better life, fine by me. Then we have the evidence. A study from somebody in a young chap in the university, you know what?
It's not the young chap, it's a whole institution.
Whole institution.
Yeah, 20,000 people or whatnot. And so...
Have 20,000 people done the study, or did you participate?
Participated. And
20,000 Americans participated in the study.
And this is just one. There's already hundreds where they've done all sorts of plant-based nutrition studies. And so if I'm just going to change the question, so for you, you value your health above the lives of other sentient beings. Is that correct?
Like probably any other human being, I value my life a lot, right? I don't put put that into the context of other human beings or other living creatures. So the survival instinct is certainly there, right? And I'm probably from a generation where we would probably still do a lot to survive, right? Would I consider my life, or would I add more, or tag more value to my life than the life of a cow? Yes, absolutely, but that's my view. The cow will see it completely differently.
Because the way I see it is inability to sort of, first of all, it's very good that you said you're following a more plant-based diet. That's already a good steps, because you said that you've sort of...
Yeah, we have reduced it massively in our family because we felt that it's not healthy. Right?
Yeah.
But we also changed what we eat, where we buy it from, and how we prepare it, right? So we have changed that because we believe that, and this is, by the way, not for me, it's not a step forward. It's actually a couple of steps back to how I was raised, right? And yeah, I feel definitely healthier and better about myself. But I also see that my children are healthier and feel better about themselves. And same for my wife. So it works for us. Will I ever? Well, I can't tell you ever. But for the foreseeable future, abandon meat or animal products in total? No, for sure not. It will not happen.
But I thought like you one day, and who knows? Who knows? You never know. But
hence why I said I can't say forever, but for the foreseeable future. Right?
Yeah. But you also, if we want our grandkids, our next generations to be, because health is not just about a single individual. When you want to consider the health of a diet, you have to consider health of the whole world, the other sentient beings, and the vegan diet, zoonotic diseases, all of these zoonotic diseases which come from animal agriculture, that will be reduced if we go vegan, if the world goes vegan. Then also climate change, our environment, global warming, all of this is just extra additionals to saving all the lives. And it's just extra benefits as well to go and be a vegan.
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding and not in research studies. So we'll see. We will see. Right? So I hope you live in 20 years' time. I hope I live in 20 years' time. And we'll look back and see the results of this movement. And if it's a good thing, we'll promote it to our families. And if it's not a good thing, we'll not promote it. Right? But the way I personally believe humans work is that we have to have that experience before we make decisions, and those studies are, in my opinion, not experienced enough to take action, right? But you know what? There may be enough evidence in the future for people like myself to take action, or people that are even more conservative than I am, right? Maybe, we don't know. But I would certainly say what I know today and what I've heard and learned thus far doesn't support my view, and my view is currently, if you go vegan, you go from one extreme to another. I don't think eating meat all day is good for you. I don't believe that. I don't think not eating meat at all is good for you. For reasons that I probably can't even explain today, right? And me and you probably don't know. But I've seen those documentaries. I've read a few studies, and for me there wasn't enough evidence to say, you know what, I'm gonna go from one extreme to another.
Yeah, it's just you have to remember that there's a victim involved, and then inability to understand veganism is inability to get into the shoes of the victim.
But here's the thing. I don't think animals are per definition victims if they are used for food. They become victims if we industrialize the way we keep animals, and we lower the standards to a degree that it becomes absolutely wrong. And this is what we saw is wrong. There's not much more to say to that. This is wrong. But But there are other good examples where there are farmers where they're doing that. They actually do care about the animals that they have. And funny enough, there was another study done. So there was a study done on what food is healthy and what food is not healthy. And what that study found out is that if in the preparation of that food a human being is involved and really cares, so from beginning to the end, the likelihood of that food being healthy is much higher than compared to the industry where the food leaves the plant, enters the plant, leaves the plant, enters the plant, right? And at one point ends up on the plate. So I'd say probably here is the same thing. If you have these international organizations that are focused on profit and they take care of animals, that's the result. If you have a small farmer that is living on his granddad's farm and is taking care of that, he probably has a different relationship with the animals and the land that he lives in.
But yeah, I'm not saying necessarily that farmers, they're also a victim of the system. So they've also been indoctrinated to believe. So yeah, there's probably farmers.
I was a child when that happened, by the way. I do remember. So in Iran, when I grew up, I do remember those shows or TV shows where people would go actually to the farm and say, hey, you can increase your production and you can increase the amount of meat you're producing from these animals, and these are the chemicals that you need here, and this is what you need to do here, and this is how you should be feeding them, right? Instead of staying with the way they were feeding those animals for aeons, right? Going from one place to another until an animal grows up, right? And at one point killing it and eating it. Now they're kept in really small cells, given a little bit of water, and sometimes in processed food and a lot of medicine. You can't compare those things, right?
But yeah, what I'm saying is even farmers that think they are looking after a cow, they are still victims, because there are farmers who see the truth, and then they then change their practices. They open the sanctuary, they look after the animals, they start raising plants. So farmers, they're just as much. So no one is to blame for the problem we have. It's the system. It's the system.
It's the system to blame. And if you look at who profits from the system, it's not necessarily the farmers, it's not the consumers, it's everything in between, right? So the farmer has been pushed out on one end, the consumer has been pushed out on the other end, and in the middle you have a complex system that lives on pushing out the farmer and the consumer. I really have to.
But yeah,
but it was a pleasure debating.
You seem like a very nice guy. And
same.
No, there's a cool vegan doctor from Iran actually. It's called Dr. Faraz Harsini. Yeah. I've spoken with a few times, but yeah,
hey, thanks, man.
It was
really
interesting. Yeah, and take care, and hopefully, we'll see you in 20 years. But maybe next week you'll have a seed in your head.
Probably not next week, but we'll see.
We'll see.
For sure, experience will tell, right?